When you're learning theory from the beginning, you really want to focus on the things that will actually make you better. Because the kind of theory that you focus on can make a huge difference to your growth as a musician. And actually, this is true even if you're a more experienced musician. Generally, you want to focus on the things that will really take you further. So you want to choose what kind of theory you learn very carefully. And also, even if you're already studying music, look, it's been a crazy year. People haven't been in orchestras or choirs. Some people have missed an entire year of schooling and a whole year of making music together. So a lot of people are rusty. So I wanted to make something to help you get started or to help you get back on track and focus on building the theory that will actually help you to grow. So for the sake of this video, I would say that there's two kinds of music theory. The first kind is what I might call academic music theory. That's when we're studying someone else's music. We're studying and learning about music of the past. And there's definitely a place for that. I mean, you know I love that kind of theory. Most of my channel is devoted to that. And if you want to get started down that road, then I've created a playlist which is called How to Listen to Classical Music. And I created that for this exact reason. That playlist is about studying and appreciating music of the past. And in general, if you have an academic interest or a curiosity in something, you should definitely scratch that itch because it can be so rewarding. However, the other kind of music theory is what I would call practical music theory. Practical theory is about learning things that you can actually apply to your music making, the things that can directly make you a better musician. So when you're starting, or if you want to focus on growth as a musician, then I think that the most efficient way to progress is to focus on practical music theory. So what's the big difference between these two kinds of theories? Well, academic theory is something that you learn by reading books or watching videos, but practical music theory is something that you train. If you're wanting to grow as a musician, then practical music theory is something you train like a muscle until it becomes second nature. And so in order to train efficiently, I think you need a strategy. So this is where a lot of people go wrong. A lot of people don't have a strategic approach to learning theory. They sort of pick things up as they go along. They try to learn things as they need it. And that kind of works up to a point. But the trouble with this method is it's a very inefficient and random way to learn. Picking up things randomly might get you to a certain point, but it'll also leave lots of unknown gaps in your education. I've seen it before where people go through high school and they don't learn certain skills, and then they get to university and their professors are like, why don't you know this? They just have this gap in their music education. And unfortunately, people start noticing when you get into more professional circles. But the thing is, it's not the student's fault. They just haven't been given a good strategy for learning. But the reality is you can get better faster if you pick a strategy and focus on the right theory. So how do you build a good strategy for learning practical theory? I think the best thing you can do is to take a holistic approach. What do I mean by a holistic approach? First is the idea that in an ideal world, everything that you learn feeds into everything else. That means that when you learn a skill in music, it's not just about learning that one skill. It's about the impact that that skill will have on your entire musicianship. So for example, when you train your ears, it will have a massive impact on everything else that you do in music. Or when you train your sight reading, it's not just about being able to sight read. When you get better at sight reading, you actually start to think about music in a different way. You start to notice patterns. You recognize harmonies and structures in the music. So learning sight reading actually benefits you in more ways than just being able to read. So in our ideal strategy, we want to take advantage of that holistic effect to combine different complementary skills, which will give us a holistic approach towards musical growth. And the other thing we need to focus on holistically is a holistic approach to training. And that means don't focus on just one kind of training. Focus on training your skills from multiple different angles. You know, if you went to the gym and you only ever did bicep curls, then you might have massive arms but really skinny legs. Your body would be unbalanced. And in the same way, you shouldn't just focus on sight reading and neglect everything else. And you shouldn't just focus on your ears and neglect everything else, or, only your rhythm. Ideally, we want to build up our different areas of musicianship together. We want to train them from multiple different angles to build a balanced, rock-solid foundation. Okay, so enough explanation. What does this actually look like in the real world? In a moment, I'm going to show you how I would actually workshop or train these skills for long-term growth. But first, let me show you how I would start right from the beginning. So you start by learning the basic blocks of music, but you need to hit them from multiple different angles. So you have the basic building blocks of rhythm, your basic units of rhythm, and at the same time, we have our basic pitches. Maybe start with just the first 5 notes of the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And at the same time as that, you're doing ear training. And I would probably start with very simple interval training. Your seconds and your thirds, just getting familiar with your small intervals. So you're doing all 3 things, rhythm, pitch, ear training, at the same time. You're building on them. But the key thing is you give yourself exercises or games to actually train these things. You can't just read about it. Anybody can say, oh, that's what a major third is. Okay, I've learned it now. No, you haven't. Because actually, in order for that to sink in, you need to practice starting on a random note and singing a major third above that or below that. Practice looking at sheet music and reading major thirds. Practice writing major thirds. You need to hit this by training it from multiple different angles. That's how these things really sink in until they feel like second nature. You hit that theory from multiple angles until it really sinks in. And then the super cool part is putting that all together. So you've isolated pitch, rhythm, intervals separately, and then you put it together. And suddenly you'll begin to see how all these different things start to feed into each other. And from there, you start to build on these basic blocks. You can get more and more complex. You can try more complex intervals, rhythms, pitch sets, ear training, and you can start to build up and push yourself further out of your comfort zone. That is the philosophy that I think makes for a really outstanding music training. Okay, so what does this look like on a larger scale? How can we actually implement this in our lives? How can we train this or workshop this in the longer term? So this is actually a question that's been consuming me for the last 8 or 9 months. So what I wanted to do for you is to create some kind of workshop which actually develops these skills. Like a free workshop that you can do at home or with your friends, where we develop and learn these foundational skills that will really build your musicianship. And I wanted it to be interactive as well. Something where there'd be exercises which you could do at home to train yourself, and where I'd take your questions and answer them. And so that's exactly what I've done. I've decided to make a free workshop on this, and I'm really excited about it because I think it will help a lot of you. So because it is this interactive thing, I want to unroll this over the next few weeks. So the plan is on Friday, we're going to be looking at what I think my 3 favorite training methods are for building up practical theory in a holistic way. These are training methods which will help your ear, your reading, and your brain with processing music. And I will show you why these methods work, how to learn them, and how to train them and build on them. Then I'll be giving a breakdown of the art of sight reading. I'll break it down into its several different stages. I'll talk about why sight reading is actually more useful than you'd expect, and the different stages of learning that skill efficiently. Then next week, I'll be showing you actual exercises and games that you can play at home, in the shower, in the car, on the toilet, anything, wherever. Exercises which will actually train up your rhythm, your relative pitch, your ear, and so on. And there are also some cool party tricks that you can try with your friends. And towards the end of next week, we'll be looking at an actual roadmap towards mastery, how you develop these skills from basic to more advanced. And we'll be looking at the teaching philosophies of some of history's greatest music teachers, including Nadia Boulanger, Paul Hindemith, Olivier Messiaen, and so on, and looking at how you progress forwards, the strategic roadmap and the mental game too. As I say, there'll be plenty of opportunities to ask me questions and to get your answers on practical music theory. So it's a short workshop, it's only a couple weeks, but it's very much happening this month. So if you're interested, then you should jump right on board. And by the way, if you do miss the start of this, you can absolutely catch up later. But having said that, I wanted this to be a very interactive thing where you can send me your questions and I will answer them. So it's very much happening in July. And if you're interested in taking part, then now is the time to sign up. You can find the link to sign up in the description. And as I say, it's completely free. I'm hoping that by the end of this course, you'll know how to train your practical theory. You'll have exercises which you can do at home to practice, and you'll have a clear sense of direction of how to progress. That's the idea behind it. And look, I know that not all of you are here for music theory, and I completely get that. And I will be coming back to normal things very soon. But I also know that there are many of you out there who really want to train to become better at music, who have aspirations to get into a conservatoire or a certain choir or orchestra. And so this workshop is for you. This course is my answer to the question, how do you train up your music theory? It's absolutely free, and if you're interested in taking this further, you can definitely sign up using the link in the description. I look forward to seeing you in the workshop. Thank you for watching.